Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video, and in today's video I'm going to be predicting the Collazo versus Zapata fight. And so if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going into this fight, Collazo is 9-0 with 7 KOs and Zapata is 14-1-1 with 5 KOs. This fight is for the WBO World Minimum Weight title. Collazo's last fight was a win via TKO in round 3 versus VR, and Zapata's last fight was a draw versus VR. They are both southpaws. Collazo is 5'2" and Zapata is 5'5". Zapata's loss came via disqualification in round 2 versus Santiago in 2022. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, obviously Collazo defending his title yet again after putting out another destructive victory last time out, and he's now really making a name for himself in this minimum weight division as possibly the best minimum weight fighter around at the moment. And you know, there's a few names about, and I suppose you look at the likes of your Jinjara Shigiokas and your Melvin Jerusalems, but he's already beaten him, and so you know there's not really too many huge names left for Collazo to fight. So I don't really, blame him for wanting to fight against Zapata. It's not really a huge fight, but it's a fight which it's going to keep him active, and it's going to be again. It's somebody who was supposed to get a big fight against Gonzalez last time, but obviously Gonzalez had to pull out, and so he's somebody who has been waiting around for this opportunity, Zapata, a big opportunity, and so he is deserving of this opportunity. But he is somebody who hasn't fought anywhere near the level in which Collazo has fought, and he's going to be a tough test for him. Obviously, Collazo can't be overlooking him or anything, but Collazo has the momentum with him, and it's going to be intriguing to see how Zapata manages to deal with a lot of things which Collazo does. Zapata, though, is the one coming down in weight. He is the taller guy by 3 inches, being 5'5", and Collazo being 5'2". So there is that aspect there where Zapata's going to be the bigger fighter. He's going to be the one, of course, with a longer reach and the one with probably the more physical possible attributes than what Collazo has. They are both southpaws, so that's definitely going to play somewhat of a factor, just because it is something a bit different. It's rare when you do see two southpaws go up against each other, and Zapata obviously hasn't been on the best of runs of forms as of recent, and it was unfortunate from what I've heard. I haven't been able to see, but it was unfortunate from what I've heard to have gotten the disqualification in that fight versus Santiago, and he was apparently close getting the draw versus Villa. Apparently that was a good fight where Zapata was landing the better shots, but he was being outthrown by Villa, so that's why it ended up in a draw. And it was close. It was a draw from what I've heard. This is all from what I've heard. I haven't been able to watch any of the tape from it, but I have watched another one of Zapata's fights, a couple of his fights actually, and so I do know what he's about. And I suppose we'll speak about Zapata first. He's, in my opinion, best on the front foot. I think he can be physical on the back foot, and if he times his uppercut, which is a nice uppercut, he can catch you when he is on the back foot, but I think he does all of his best work onto the front foot. He loops his shots in nicely. He'll go around the guard with them shots and perhaps offer something a little bit different than what maybe Collazo's used to. He's got good timing, got a good solid chin. He's quite awkward in some of his movements and his style to an extent. He doesn't take unnecessary risks. He is quite methodical in his work. He'll pick his shots nicely, and like I say, just doesn't put himself in positions unnecessarily where they are going to damage him. He's got a nice high guard. He changes levels relatively well. He'll go to the body when he is in close with you, and then he can do some of his good work there. He's a mid-range type fighter. I think at the best of times that's where he does his best work. And Collazo is somebody who isn't really the quickest of starters. He's got a nice jab in which he'll try and find his range with early, but if Zapata can impose his range and that longer range and be able to use his jab early on, then that's where he can find success. He's got, like I say, also that good uppercut as well, in which, like I say, timing-wise, he does have typically quite good timing, so if he can time it on you, then it could be a dangerous shot. Negatives about him, obviously this is a step up in opponent. It is quite a big step up, to be completely honest. He's not really been too active either, and when he is put on the back foot, then we can see weaknesses there. He's got the lesser power. He can be outworked, like I've mentioned. His defensive movement, he doesn't move necessarily badly, but it's not anything too impressive, the defensive movement of his. Obviously, coming down in weight, as the past opponents in which Collazo have fought, I believe majority of them have been coming down in weight, or aren't always too comfortable at this weight, and that's where he's going to be able to. That's where he's been getting stoppages. Collazo, he has that power, and when you're coming down in weight, you're automatically weaker anyway. So Zapata coming down in weight might be weaker. Sometimes he doesn't let his hands go enough. I think he can struggle against speed. He can be moved around the ring by his opponent. He reacts to feints, and he does slow later on throughout the fight. But to now speak about Collazo as a fighter, obviously, like I say, he has this momentum. It's really nice to see Golden Boy go and pick him up and, promote him and give him a platform, because he is bringing eyes to the minimum weight division, and as arguably the best minimum weight fighter around at the moment, he deserves it. And of course, like I say, he got that momentum, been able to be getting stoppages and be consistent in his work. He's going to be coming into this very confident. He is typically a high volume, quite relentless fighter, especially when he gets into a rhythm, when he gets past the early rounds and gets into his flow. Then he's, like I say, high volume, relentless a lot of the time, in your face, goes to the body well, in close typically a lot of the time, but like I say, mid-range early on, then when he gets his groove, he'll get in close. He finds his openings well, he slows you down well as well, and something I really was impressed with that last fight was that, he is a great finisher, and he proved that in that last fight of his. He wasn't trying to rush his work, and he really picked his shots nicely when he had Villa hurt and, well, Gutierrez hurt, and it was a good performance. It was an impressive stoppage, and like I say, sometimes you do see fighters try rush in, force a stoppage, and yeah, it was nice to see Collazo not do that. He is accurate, power is of course there. He sits down and shots well, got a nice tight guard, relatively complete fighter to an extent. Obviously there are negatives, but on the basis a relatively complete fighter. He's sharp, he stalks you down, counters well, fast jab as well in the process. He's really nice to watch, and if you haven't already watched him, I would definitely recommend going and doing so. Negatives about him, of course, he may be overlooking Zapata. In my opinion, I wouldn't really, I suppose, blame him for, but of course you can't really overlook anybody, but this is definitely not a huge fight for him. He can stay possibly in close range a bit too long. Zapata, I don't know if he's going to be able to necessarily punish that, but he does stay in a bit too close of a range at times, can be countered as an aspect of that. He needs to pace himself sometimes a little bit. Sometimes he can be perhaps a little bit too eager, but I think he's improved on that a lot and has paced himself better in his more recent fights. Physicality is not as physical as that of Zapata, so Zapata, if he can impose himself, he might be able to move Collazo around a little bit. He's, like I say, a little bit of a slow starter. Finding his range is something that he definitely needs to do throughout the fight. Working his way in is, from the process of finding range. Head movement isn't always something too crazy, and his footwork can seem a little bit off balance at times and can be drawn into fights a bit as well. But in general, if he doesn't get drawn into a fight with Zapata, I suppose even if he does, I don't think Zapata has the power to be able to deal with a fight versus Collazo. Collazo is a favourite, and I think that Collazo will win via TKO in round 6. I think Zapata's a tough guy. I think he'll be able to take some punishment, but going into the 6th, 7th, even later rounds, I think he could really struggle with Collazo's just work rate when he gets that rhythm going, and that in close type mindset as well, and of course coming down in weight as well. I think he will struggle, and then Collazo will be able to get that stoppage into, in my opinion, round 6. Then we could go on to fight. Like I said, there's not too many huge options available in the minimum weight division at the moment, unless he's thinking about moving up. But to be fair, he is quite small anyway in the minimum weight division, Collazo, so I'm not necessarily sure if he would want to move up. But I would like to see him, of course, box for other world titles at this point. I think he has to really state a claim for him to go to Japan and to have big fights out there, and to be able to become that unified champion that he definitely could be, or undisputed champion. So the big fight is the Jinjiro Shigeoka fight. That's the fight in which I want to see. That's the fight which I'm sure everybody wants to see. IBF champion, of course. He is fighting Tanduran, who, it's not really a great fight. Tanduran is coming off a win versus the guy who Shigeoka beat very convincingly before, and he's just coming, and Tanduran is just beating him by decision. But then prior towards that, there was 2 losses as well. So it's not really a great fight, but either way, if he gets through that, then the Jinjiro Shigeoka fight is a huge fight in which I'm sure everybody would love to see, and that is the biggest fight in the minimum weight division, in my opinion, at the moment. Of course, he could fight Jerusalem again, now WBC champion after beating Yudai Shigeoka. He could be another person that Collazo could fight, but could fight Jerusalem again. I mean, he was dominant in their performance the first time, so maybe he's not queuing up to, but there will be another title on the line if he does so you do never know. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't, like this, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.